Having created a name for itself in the single-player RPG genre, Fallout returns with a brand new take for the series that, while ambitious on paper, ends up failing as a jack-of-all-trades. While there is some fun experiences to be had here, ultimately I was left with a game that was reminiscent to Sea of Thieves, a grand world to explore with little importance and objectives, only way buggier. Fallout 76 acts as a prequel to the series starting in 2021, 25 years after the nuclear war. You play as a dweller of Vault 76, a vault in West Virginia housing the brightest minds that can rebuild the world as we once knew it. It also so happens to be Reclamation Day when we start the game, but Reclamation will have to wait, as it turns out that the world isn't as we planned for it to be. The Fallout has left the world a complete wasteland with mutated creatures and humans left wandering it. Following the pre-recorded messages of the Overseer, the resident that left the vault earlier, you explore the wasteland trying to scrap together any hope for a viable future. While the premise is vastly interesting, especially with the world as large as West Virginia to explore, the way it's executed is uneventful. Every story quest feels like you just missed the party, like a friend telling you, hey, you should have been here, you just missed it. All the war, destruction, and the meat of the story has already happened. As a player, you're sort of just left picking up the scraps of what would have been an awesome adventure to go through. With this being an online multiplayer game, you being the chosen one to save the wasteland would have meant that every other player would also be the chosen one, and I get the thought process behind that. However, with the story-driven series like Fallout that prides itself in choice and interesting NPCs, the fact that both of these are missing is just taboo. If they're being taken out, then some sort of viable way of storytelling would need to replace them, and audio logs stripping most of the exciting parts of the story isn't it. Oddly enough, what ends up coming up at the forefront isn't the story written by Bethesda, but the story written by players. Their experiences they had in the wasteland being shared socially through their friends. It's a risky approach that would have worked if exploring the wasteland was an enjoyable experience. However, parallel to how Sea of Thieves launched, this is a beautiful world with a lack of direction and real motivation to do anything. From a story perspective, it's a complete letdown. Fallout 76 feels familiar and different at the same time. If you played Fallout 4 before, you'll recognize a lot of elements from that game here, but with some variations for the online multiplayer. You start off the game with your own custom character that then introduces the new special system. Leveling up in the game earns you a point that can then be reinvested into the new card perks system. Each card adds a new attribute to your character and then can be further built upon using similar cards. If you're playing on a team, you can even activate cards that affect the squad as a whole. You even have the option to tailor cards to your current situation, switching them out to fit the mission you're currently on. Upon selecting your special, you're thrusted into the wasteland, a world that's completely destroyed, and yet one of the most beautiful worlds that the Fallout series has touched. It's 4 times the size of Fallout 4's Boston and covers both the obliteration and salvation of the world after the Great War. This is a world that on the surface is worthy of exploring. I want to learn more about the world, what was here, and how the war affected it. I just wish it wasn't through the audio log system that's in place. Disregarding the story aspect we already went through, the world itself is beautiful. I often found myself ignoring the mainline objective to just open up the map and explore the wasteland. Visit some mines looking for treasure, or perhaps visit West Virginia's Mothman Park. There's plenty of landmark attractions that piqued my curiosity. Admittedly, there were a few empty gaps in between each location, and despite some of them being nice scenic routes, they quickly lost their appeal after my first few hours in West Virginia. That's sort of the feeling that encapsulated me after the first few hours of Fallout 76. Empty isolation. This is an online Fallout game that, despite there being other human survivors around me, the world itself felt lonely. Take PvP for example. It's in the game but feels rather pointless. Outside of a few open PvP areas and public event areas, attacking someone doesn't really do much. There aren't a ton of rewards for attacking someone other than just having a wanted sign over your head that tells everyone, hey, this guy's an ass, probably shoot him down. There's even less repercussions for dying in the game. Die of food poisoning or get murdered by someone and you can easily pay a couple of caps to respawn nearby at a landmark and then go get your belongings. In terms of the cooperative aspect, the fun in that comes from the experience rather than the missions themselves. That will of course be subjective to you and your team and the experiences you run into in the wasteland. Personally, I had one great moment where I joined up with a group to take on a public event that had just released a giant flying monster. Joining their squad mid-fight as complete strangers was entertaining and I loved the sense of camaraderie. Those moments though quickly became far and few in between, as most missions were simple go activate this, go retrieve this, or kill this many creatures. Missions that felt like they weren't tailored for a team specifically. There's also a big difficulty issue in place. I didn't find missions to scale to your group size. If you're playing a mission solo or with a group of people, I didn't notice a difference from the AI side. The biggest benefit of having a squad with you was just that fights would be easier because of the additional firepower. If you'd rather play alone, that's a completely viable option as well, though I feel like you're in for a much more repetitive, shallow, and difficult playthrough. Most of my time playing solo, I just found myself doing the same thing over and over again. Set off on a new objective, pick up everything in sight, scrap my junk to gather crafting materials, complete the objective, and rinse and repeat. Most of the time these objectives were just me walking from one end of the map to the other to collect something or access a terminal. It got boring for me rather quickly because at the end of the day all I was doing was fetch quests and inventory management with very little story motivation to back it up. As far as leaving your mark on West Virginia, you can set up a camp or take a crack at completing the endgame nuke content, but the build up to it is just so shallow. The most fun parts of the game was just messing around with the environment and following any bizarre side quests that had very little to do with the actual narrative. There's also a few genre translation problems with the gunplay. Being an online game, you can't use VATs as they were used before in previous Fallout games. However, they're still present in this game and function as an auto lock-on feature. The problem with that though is that the chance of a VAT hitting changes so rapidly. More often than not, you're better off just manually aiming than actually using the VAT. Since I was playing on PC too, there's also a bunch of weird choices with the controls that I noticed. The tab key, for example, takes the place of what an escape key would normally do in just about every other game, and the UI in general just feels clunky to navigate. It's weird that a first-person shooter like this feels more designed for a controller than a keyboard on the PC version. West Virginia is beautiful. It's the most lush setting the Fallout series has seen in years. Its wide open spaces and variety in terrain is inviting and piqued my curiosity when roaming through the wasteland. It also is a complete mess even by Bethesda standards. There's an accustomed jank to Bethesda games and Fallout 76 somehow found a way to raise the bar. On console you're seeing a dynamic 1080p resolution on PS4 and Xbox One, with a dynamic 1440p on PS4 Pro and dynamic 4K on Xbox One X. The varying resolutions aside, each platform including PC runs into frame rate jumps, freezes, and stutters. With the beta over and the final game being here, optimization hasn't really seen an improvement, and those impressions many of us had of the beta are representative of the final game. Without going down the entire list of bugs I ran into in my playtime, let's just say that my character is missing on the ID picture and that textures constantly fail to load in. Fallout 76 is simply a buggy mess. Can you still play it? Yes. Is it acceptable? No, not really. Especially with Bethesda being the backer of this project, it's more apparent than ever that some sort of quality control or improvement to the engine must be made moving forward. What I'm seeing here now feels like an unofficial Fallout 4 online mod that I'd expect from a fan project, not from the developer themselves. Where Fallout 76 falls in visual presentation, it soars in audio presentation. There's a strong punch with every bullet that hits an enemy, a loud bolt-action shotgun launches an echo into the world as you fight to keep the mutant creatures at bay. The sounds of scrap metal being scratched as you scavenge the wasteland for resources, it's all captivating and sent goosebumps down my spine. It's an attention to detail that can only be ruined by the loud screams of other survivors in the wasteland. I had to turn off the default turned on voice chat early on in the game just because I literally couldn't hear the audio logs telling me the game's story without random people yelling in the background. Fallout 76 tries to evolve the series into new genres by scrapping what made the series so great in the first place. The story, choices, and the motivations that came with that are heavily lacking throughout Fallout 76. It ends up making the game feel like a rushed together project where someone yelled out, "Hey, let's make Fallout Online," but no one ever asked how, why, or what would be improved by doing so. At launch, it's a buggy open world that looks cool to explore without the motivation to actually do so. I give Fallout 76 a 6 out of 10. If you found this review useful, then please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe for more reviews in the future. If you'd like to keep up to date with me off of YouTube, I have my Twitter, Discord, and Instagram in the description down below. Thank you all very much for watching, hope you guys have a great day, and keep on gaming.